All right, so we have been studying the book of Revelation, and we're in chapter 13, and we were looking last night. We're going to continue from what we did last night. We're talking about the beast, the dragon, and the false prophet. So we're starting off with, now, if you recall, last night we studied first, we looked at Genesis. And as we looked at Genesis, I showed how man was born on the sixth day. We showed how the devil, Satan, tricked Eve into wanting or desiring to be a goddess. And that desire that he tricked her into, it caused the fall of all mankind. We also saw that the Most High declared that man has become as one of him. In other words, man's become to know good and evil. And because of that, the Most High took the tree of life away from the man and cut him off from it, thereby shortening the man's life, causing death. Because the only way a person can live forever is by having access to the tree of life. When we get into the kingdom, the Bible shows us that in Revelation chapter 22, it shows us, Revelation chapter 22 and verse 1 and 2. Actually, if you look at 1, 2, and 3, it says, "And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Yah and of the Lamb. And in the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, there was the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of Yah and the Lamb shall be in it, and its servants shall serve him." So the tree of life is what causes us, by eating of that tree, what causes us to continue perpetuating our life forever. Being cut off from that tree stops our life from perpetuating. That's why Adam was cut off from the tree, and he lived 930 years just based on the power of what he had already eaten of the tree and of him being created by the Creator. He lived 930 years, and then he died. Now, had he been permitted to continue to eat of the tree after he sinned, sin would have been immortalized, would be able to live forever. But that's why there's no such thing as an immortal sinner, and that's why sin will not live forever, because he was cut off from the tree. But I want to bring out the devices of the enemy by pointing out this. Remember what the Most High said: man has become as one of us to know good and evil. Now, what the Most High said, what he's trying to say is, man now has an experience with evil. Now, the difference between man having an experience with evil and the Creator having an experience with evil is this: we cannot handle an experience with evil. The Most High, that is, never intended for us as human beings to ever have any experience with evil. And so he can see it, and it doesn't change who he is. It doesn't change his character. It doesn't change his decisions. It doesn't change anything about him to see evil, except what happens is evil is destroyed in his sight. But for us, if we look at it, if we start to behold it, it changes us. And the principle, of course, is in 2 Corinthians chapter 4. If you look at 2 Corinthians chapter 4, it illustrates this principle. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. And let's look at that. 2 Corinthians 4, and we're looking at, I'm going to look at 2 Corinthians 4, actually 2 Corinthians 3, I'm sorry, 2 Corinthians chapter 3. 2 Corinthians 3, I'm beginning at verse 17 and reading verse 18, 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17 and 18. It says, "Now the master is that spirit, and where the spirit of the master is, there is liberty. But we all, with open face beholding, as in a glass, the glory of the master, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of Yahweh." Now, let me explain this. So the principle is, by beholding, you become changed. So whatever you are setting your eyes or your mind on, so this is not necessarily, I mean, you can be beholding it with physical eyes, but this is not just that. This is, what are you beholding with your spiritual eyes? What is your focus in your spirit? He says, by beholding the Spirit of the Most High, Yahweh, by being part of his spirit, you are changed into his image. So that's why we talk about meditating or praying in the spirit of the Most High, asking his spirit of righteousness to take possession of you, asking his spirit. And that's why I like to get up in the morning and just, pray. And when I'm praying, I always repent and ask for his spirit to take possession of me. But mostly what I'm doing is I'm meditating on his word, meditating on his righteousness, and asking his spirit to take possession of me that day so that I can keep his commandments and do his will. And that by beholding that spirit of righteousness, of truth, of peace, you become changed into that image. If you're continually beholding strife and fighting and arguing, and your spirit is restless, that's the kind of person you're going to be. So by beholding, you become changed. So now, if we behold sin and evil and lawlessness, and that's all we see and that's all we know, we're going to be changed into that image. We're going to be changed into that image. So the Most High can see lawlessness and sin. He can see it developing. He's going to destroy it, but it doesn't change who he is. It doesn't change his righteousness in one bit. But us, for example, if you take a little child, like some of these priests, they say they caught some of these Catholic priests, molesting little boys. If you have a little boy that's molested by a Catholic priest and it's going on for a couple of years, don't you think that's going to change how that little boy sees things? It's going to change his outlook on life. It's going to change his spirit just by having experienced that and beholding that. It's going to change his spirit versus a little boy that never happened to, that grew up a normal child with not being molested, with being taught differently. That's going to be a different scenario. That mind's going to be different. So by beholding, by experiencing, you become changed. So now, with Adam and Eve experiencing what it is like to rebel against the Most High, it changed them. And it changed them and it changed their children, which is us. And so what has happened now is Satan has come into the earth, and now as a rebellious spirit, we are drawn to that spirit naturally because he's a rebellious spirit, and our parents gave us a rebellious spirit, and so we're drawn to it. But when the spirit of the Most High teaches us or convicts us, and that's what is very important, the Most High has blessed us in the earth that he gives us the ability to receive conviction, because that's his spirit giving us another choice so that we can decide, wait a minute, we don't have to go with our natural bent of rebellion against the Most High. We can choose this other spirit that's coming to us, that's talking to us, that's trying to convict us that what we're doing or what we're saying or where we've been is wrong. And if we decide to go in that direction, he will completely take over our spirit with his spirit of righteousness as we repent. And now we have a different character. Now we don't want to go against him. That's why when a person is born again, if you've ever experienced the born again experience, when you are born again and you really have given yourself over to your creator, there's automatically something in you that says, I want to do the right thing. I don't want to do what I was doing before. So if you used to smoke cigarettes, all of a sudden you decide, you know what, I don't want to smoke cigarettes now. Or if you were fornicating, you decide, I don't want to fornicate anymore. And it's not like anybody told you it was wrong. It's just that there's a spirit that's telling you, you don't want to do that anymore. And that's the Father spirit. And as you study his word, you start to find, oh, this is according with his word. I don't want to fornicate. I don't want to act wild anymore. I don't want to go out and get drunk all the time because this is not what his spirit is telling me to do. This is against what his word is telling me to do. But that's confirming whenever you read his word and you see the truth in it, it's confirming with the spirit that's already in you that this is truth and this is the way you should go. Does that make sense? So now, as you are given over to the Father's spirit, as you are beholding him, you become changed into his image. But just so, as you behold Satan, as you behold self-centeredness or narcissism, as you behold a selfish and a evil spirit, you're going to be changed into that image. That's why the worst thing in the world that can happen to a child is to be spoiled. When a parent overindulges a child and gives a child everything it ever wants and never says no to a child is beholding a situation. What you're doing is you're training a child to be self-centered, that whatever they want, they're supposed to have. And what ends up happening is that child grows up and that child will be never satisfied. It can never live with anybody and nobody can live with that person because everything they want and desire, they're supposed to have, and they don't get it, they'll be miserable. So the worst thing you can do is spoil a child. Okay, that's the worst thing you can do. And that becomes a spirit of narcissism, which we see evident. What narcissism is, if you don't know what that means, narcissism is self-centeredness and conceited in the extreme. That's what narcissism is. It means I must have what I want, and my feelings are the most important feelings on the planet, and what happens to you doesn't matter to me as long as I get what I want. That leads to all types of things on the earth. It leads to people becoming mass murderers. It leads to rapists. It leads to every evil that you have under the sun. A person that believes that what they want, what they desire, what their decisions are ultimate, and everybody else is secondary. That's Asatan. That's what he does. Because remember, he wanted to be God. He wanted to take the throne of the Father. And so he doesn't care about the Father's commandments. He doesn't care about anything as long as he gets what he wants. And his main area of using that, which is what people use today when they're narcissistic, is deception. That's why you can meet a person on the internet. You could meet a person on the internet, like, let's say you were doing one of these dating sites and you saw a person and you decided you wanted to talk to this person, and you talking to them on the internet and everything sounds good until you meet them. And then when you meet them, they sound good until you get together with them. And then all of a sudden things change because they've deceived you all the time in order to get to you. That's what Asatan does. So by beholding, you become changed. And what happened now, Adam and Eve were beheld evil in their rebellion against the Most High, and they were changed. That's why the Bible says their eyes were open. Well, Asatan uses that. And he tells us now we are like gods. He tells us this to us in a million different ways. He says to you, you have the power to change your situation, to change your life. You have the power to do anything you want to do on this earth. But the truth is, we have power as it is in the Creator. We're not the Creator. Just like the Messiah is the representation of the Father, but he's not the Father. There is a Messiah and there's a Father. And the Messiah will be the first to tell you, I only do those things my Father tells me to do. I only do those things which he has taught me. We have a Creator, we have a Father. Well, just so, we are made in the image of the Creator. But Asatan will tell you, you're as the Creator. Adam being made in the image of the Creator doesn't mean he's God. You understand the difference? It doesn't mean he's God. It means he is made as the Son of the Most High. He is not the Most High. He's made as the Son of the Most High. But we have as a dangerous thing when people start to think that they themselves are a God. Because now you're falling into the trap of Asatan. And because we are fallen mankind, our judgment is perverted. We have to understand our judgment in its natural state is perverted because we have a sinful and rebellious spirit in our natural state. But Asatan will tell you in your natural state, you're a God. In your natural state, you have all the abilities to do anything you want to do. In your natural state, you don't need the Creator because you're the Creator. That's his doctrine. It's rampant throughout all the earth. Everything that's built on this earth that's outside the truth of the Father is built on that principle. Every denomination in church. Look, when we look in the scriptures, as we read the scriptures, we have never seen in the scriptures any place where the Most High created a religious denomination or system. You've never seen that in the scripture. The scripture never says to the Messiah or the Father, never said, I'm going to have this system of religion and I'm going to give it a name. And I want people that want to be part of me to be part of this system. He doesn't say that. What does the Father give us? He gave us a nation. That's a government. He gave us a government. It's his government. It's the laws and his constitution are the two witnesses, which are the 10 commandments, the covenant. That's his constitution of his government. That's his people that are part of that nation. So when he has a kingdom is again a government. You have a king In this case, it'd be the Father. He's ruler over what? The entire universe, everything he's created. And he has a law, a constitution. It's the covenant. And you say, well, what is this covenant based on? See, in the United States, we have a constitution in the United States. It's called the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution. What is that based on? That is based on what the people that created it decided is good or is bad. That's based on what the people that created it are decided, based on their experiences, what works and what doesn't work. That's based on the knowledge that they have. So what is the Creator's constitution or the covenant based on? It's based entirely on his character of righteousness and truth. The Father's constitution is the two witnesses of the covenant and is based entirely on his character. In fact, the two witnesses are exactly a transcript of the Father's character, which means if you're part of his nation, you are going to be obedient to a spirit and character that's like him. That's different than anything on the earth. All the institutions and religions on the earth are at best lower forms, offshoots of the Father. They're not his. They're man-made. All the religions, the Christianity religion, the Buddhism religion, the Hindu religion, the Islamic religion, Judaism, they all come from some group of men that decided to create this form of worship, this form of religious observance. There is no such thing in the Bible. The Bible never indicates that there's a Baptist. It never says there's a Mormon. It never says there's a Seventh-day Adventist. It never says there's a Judaism. There's no Judaism in the Bible. It never says that there's Islam, that they're going to practice this religion. It never tells you that. Why? Because they don't exist in the Bible. And if they don't exist in the Word, where did they come from? They came from man. And when it's man-made, it's temporary. When it's made by the Father, it's eternal. So the Father recreates you and me in his spirit. His spirit is eternal. What does that say? That says if we walk in his spirit, he will cause us to live forever. But for example, New York City is made by man. What does that tell you about New York City? It's temporary. It's not going to be here in eternity because man made it. But the New Jerusalem was made by the Father. What does that tell you about it? It's eternal. It's going to last forever. It will never cease to exist. New York City will cease to exist. The United States of America was founded by a group of men. It will cease to exist. All nations will cease to exist. And the nations that will continue to exist are those nations that are one with the government of the kingdom of the Father. Those nations that are connected to the nation, the redeemed nation of Israel. They will have nations. They will live. They will continue because of their connection to an eternal spirit and an eternal country. The nation of Israel, the name Israel or Yashar-al, did Jacob just make up that name? Did he say, I'm going to call myself Israel? Did he say, you know what, I'm changing my name from Jacob to Yashar-al? Did he say that? No, he did not say that. How did he get that name? The Messiah gave him that name. The Messiah said, your name will no longer be Jacob. That was given to him by his mom and dad. He said, no, your name's going to be Israel, Yashar-al. You're a prince. And Yashar-al means right with the Most High, to be right with the Most High. You're right with me. You're a prince. I've given you that name. That name, therefore, will continue forever. It will never die. There's always going to be in Israel. Always. And when the Most High said to him, I'm going to bless you and your children after you, that's going to continue. That word is going out. Jacob has children. Those children are going to be blessed forever. Okay? That's why the Bible says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Not the Jerusalem on earth here, not that one. It's the New Jerusalem. He said where all the tribes go up. Let's take a look at that. I believe that's Psalm 121, I believe. Let me just make sure I'm finding that there. I believe it's Psalm 121. No, it's Psalm 122. Psalm 122. Notice Psalm 122. Now, again, I'm revealing to you now. I'm bringing all this out to reveal to you the devices of Asatan, which we're going to see when we talk about the false prophet. But let's take a look at Psalm 122. It says, "I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of Yahweh. Our feet shall stand within thy gates, O Jerusalem." Now, again, we're not talking about Jerusalem that's in the Middle East today in the state of Israel. We're talking about the New Jerusalem that's an eternal city of the Most High. So now Jerusalem is builded as a city that is compact together. Notice what it says in verse 4. Whether the tribes go up. What tribes? The tribes of Yahweh. What is that? That's the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. That's Psalm 122. It's the entire psalm starting at, it's only 9 verses. So we're starting at verse 1, Psalm 122. Yeah. So I'm going verse 4 now. So whether the tribes go up, the tribes of Yahweh unto the testimony of Israel. What is the testimony of Israel? Remember, the word testimony means witness. What is the witness of Israel? Unto the tribes are coming to where the witness of Israel is. What's the witness of Israel? The witness is the two witnesses. That's the covenant. That's the covenant, the two tables of the covenant. That's where so in the Jerusalem, the two tables of the covenant were there because that's where the Ark of the covenant existed at Jerusalem. That's where the two tables are. So they said the tribes come up to the nation, to the city of the New Jerusalem to see what? The Ark of the Covenant, to be where the Ark of the Covenant, unto the testimony, to give thanks to the name of Yahweh because he's there. For there are set thrones of judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Because why? Because Jerusalem is in the tribe of Judah, right? Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. They shall prosper that love thee. Notice it says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. That's the New Jerusalem. They shall prosper that love thee, that love the New Jerusalem. Because why? That's the Father's covenant is. Where the Father dwells is where his people are going to dwell. You should pray for the peace of all of that. His Father, his city, his people. Peace be within thy walls and prosperity within thy palaces. For my brethren and companionship sakes, I will now say, peace be within thee. Because of the house of Yahweh, our Most High, I will seek thy good. See? So people that connect with the Most High's people, that connect with the Most High Spirit, that connect with the New Jerusalem, these are the people of the Most High. These are his people. Now, we said earlier, Asatan takes everything that the Father gives us and he perverts it. So Asatan took the fact that man was made on the 6th day and he uses 6 as man's number. Okay, that's why you have 666. It's no coincidence, 666. That's man's number. Man was created on the 6th day. Okay, he takes the fact that he told Eve she could be a god and he tries to tell women you can be what? A goddess. You could be a goddess. There are some religions that actually believe that a woman is a god. There are some religions that do that right now. There are people that follow religions that believe that a woman could be a god. And whenever you see, and that, wait a minute, the Bible, we talked about this later, the Bible clearly says, it clearly says, suffer not, Paul instructs Timothy, suffer not a woman to teach or usurp authority over the man. For the man was made first, then the woman. The woman came from the man. The head of the man is the Messiah. The head of the woman is the man. So now, if you see a woman trying to usurp authority or teach men to stand in the pulpit of so-called church and teach men, that goes against the word. And what you can know right now, I can tell you right now, I don't care what the woman is. I don't care what her message is. I can tell you right now, she is being set up to be a goddess. A goddess. And I'll give you an example. Some of y'all not going to like this example. But I'm going to tell you this truth now. I was in the SDA church. And the SDA church, the highest woman, anybody that was in the SDA church will tell you, the highest level woman in the SDA church was Ellen G. White. Now, whether Ellen G. White herself wanted to be in that position, I don't know. But I do know that that church exalts her I do know that they had her preaching at times in front of people, and so they made her into the goddess. And now in the SDA church, in order, if you want to see an SDA get serious about what they think of the things of God, what you'll see is you'll see them with a Bible, and you'll see them with one of Ellen White's books right next to it. Because they have exalted her to be the goddess. Because she was never supposed to be in that position. But Asatan will use any woman, put them in that position. And I want to tell you this. Wait, let me tell you this. What did we just say earlier? If the Most High does something, if he gives a name to something, if he makes something, it's going to be forever. But if man does it, or if it goes against his word, what is it? It's temporary. So anytime you see a woman leading a religious movement, you can know right now, it's temporary. It's not going to last. Not going to last. And I'm not trying to down the woman. Let me explain this too. The Bible, I want to bring out I'm going to bring out just one witness to this, just to prove this point I'm getting ready to say with regard to the woman. Now, we know the man's supposed to be the head and the woman's supposed to follow the man. But I want to show you something in Colossians. No, I'm sorry. I believe it's 1 Peter, not Colossians. Yeah, I believe it's 1 Peter, not Colossians. It's 1 Peter. Yeah, chapter 3 of 1 Peter. This is for the men to understand the woman and how he's supposed to relate to the woman and how the woman's supposed to relate to the man. Is very well put in these two verses. I want to show you this. Let's start at verse 1 of 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. But I'm going to read down because finally is verse 8. But verse 7 is the focus here. But let's take a look. 1 Peter chapter 3 from verse 1 down to verse 8. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husband, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. That word conversation actually is a word that doesn't mean necessarily what you're saying. It means lifestyle. So the word conversation, when you see the conversation of the wives and the chaste conversation, it means how you're acting, your example, your lifestyle. Whose adorning, let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair and wearing of the gold or putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which in the sight of Yahweh is of great price. For after this manner in the old time, the holy women also who trusted in Yahweh adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husband, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement. Watch verse 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them, that is, with your wives, with the woman, according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life. And notice this warning, that your prayers be not hindered. Finally, be ye all of one mind, having compassion one of another, love as brethren, be pitiful, be courteous. So first of all, it tells us, let's start from the bottom. We should all be of one mind, which means a woman and a man that's getting together as the nation of Israel should only get together with somebody that has that understanding as part of the nation. Because you get together with somebody else, you're getting together with Baptists, or you get together with Pentecostal, or even the SDA, you with somebody that's worshiping a different God. They don't worship the same God you worship. They don't believe as you believe. See, in the Bible, whenever they're giving instruction, there's certain things that is understood. For example, when the Messiah was talking about marriage in the Gospel of Matthew, he's talking to a group of Hebrews. They understand what marriage is according to the book of Deuteronomy. So when he's breaking that down for them, they're understanding where he's coming from. He's not talking to Gentiles. He's talking to Israelites. So here, Peter is saying, as long as you are faithful, you're like the holy woman of old. And he used Sarah, from which Abraham's wife Sarah, from which we get the nation of Israel. He's using her as an example. And he's saying, be after the holy woman of old who trusted in the Most High and how they adorn themselves. Now, I want to also bring out this side point here. He's not saying women shouldn't wear gold or jewelry. He's not saying that. He's saying don't let that be what dictates what your character is. Your character is not based on the gold or the jewelry. Your character is based on the spirit of righteousness from your Father and your humility. See, notice he said your chaste conversation, your chaste lifestyle, your meek and quiet spirit. See, you're not a gossiper. You're not loud and clamorous. You're a meek and quiet spirit, a spirit of obedience to your husband as well as to the Father. Spirit of righteousness. And the husband is supposed to give honor to the wife. Think about that for a second. When you hear about, if I said you're supposed to give honor to a person, what does giving honor mean to you? Like, if you're going to give honor to somebody, if you're going to give honor to your wife, if you're going to give honor to anybody, like, for example, if you ever been in the courtroom, I hate courtrooms because it made me, I might be getting in trouble if I go into a courtroom. But when you go into a courtroom, right, you're going to honor the judge. How you going to honor the judge? Well, what happens when you sitting down in the seat and the judge walks in the room, what you going to do? You're going to stand up. Isn't that right? Why are you going to stand up? Because you're giving honor and respect to the judge. And when the judge calls your name and asks you, you're going to say yes or no, your honor. Your honor. You're giving honor to the judge. A man is supposed to give honor to his wife. She is supposed to be subject to him, but he has to give honor. That means you're a man. If you're disrespecting your wife, you're not giving her honor. And you know the consequence, it says in the word, your prayers might not even be heard. If you dishonor your wife, your prayers might not even be heard. Because it says there in verse 7, it says that your prayers be not hindered. So if you're dishonoring a man that's beating his wife, a man that's verbally abusing his wife, a man that's downing his wife, his prayers ain't being heard by nobody. Not by our Father. Because he said you're supposed to give honor as unto the weaker vessel. She is the weaker vessel. She made after you. There's certain things a man can't understand why a woman does, but she's a woman. She does certain things you may not understand, but you're supposed to respect and honor her in those things regardless. Okay? As unto the weaker vessel. And a woman's supposed to obey him. Sarah called. Now, you don't have to call your husband Lord, but he should be of a stature that you don't mind calling him Lord, that you don't mind saying that's my Lord. You don't have to. Did not Sarah do that? He used Sarah's example. When did she call Abraham Lord? Well, we see one example of it when the Messiah came and told Abraham, next year your wife's going to have a son. And she heard it. And she laughed and she said, how am I going to have pleasure? My Lord being old, shall he have pleasure? She said, we're too old to even have sex. How are we going to have a child? But she called him Lord even by herself when she was talking to herself and laughing to herself. She said, my Lord being old. She had that kind of respect for her husband. So a woman needs to have that type of respect for her husband. If you can't respect a man like that, y'all don't need to be together. Y'all don't need to be together. You need to have respect. And it may not be the man. The problem may be you. And this is especially true among Israelite Hebrew women. Don't get me on this soapbox, but you know, the Hebrew woman, through this whole women's lib thing, all they learn is to disrespect the man. That's all they learn. Disrespect him. Disrespect him. And while this society and this Babylonian system is set up, it is set up to destroy the black man. It is set up to destroy him. And instead of understanding that the man should be able to go to his woman and she should understand that, she said, why are you so lazy? Why are you so messed up? Why can't you do like that Caucasian man do down the street? This system ain't set up for your man to prosper. You should understand that. And any Caucasian woman that wants to be with a black man, you need to understand that. Otherwise, you ain't going to make it because this system is set up against him. He's not supposed to prosper in this system. And that's okay. It really is because, the Bible tells us this is what we shouldn't desire to be rich, And somebody said, well, what? We supposed to be poor? No, we're not supposed to be poor either. Let me show you what the scripture says. Very wonderful. Here's a wonderful scripture in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter, let's see. Proverbs chapter 30. Notice what it says. Proverbs chapter 30. This is Agor, who also added to what Solomon did in this book of wisdom, the Proverbs. But I want you to see, he gave us counsel on how we're supposed to handle ourselves with regard to money in this Babylonian system. Notice what it says in Proverbs chapter 30. I'm going to begin at verse 7 and go down to verse 9. Notice what it says. Proverbs chapter 30 from verse 7 to verse 9. 2 things have I required of thee. He's telling the Most High, deny me them not before I die. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is Yahweh? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my Most High in vain. See, you're not supposed to be really poor. You're not supposed to be really rich. You're supposed to have the food you need. You're supposed to be able to pay your bills. You're supposed to have a roof over your head. See? You don't want to have too much because the people that have rich think they don't need the Creator. And if you get poor, you get desperate and you'll do anything to survive. Right? So you don't want to be rich, you don't want to be poor. You'll be able to pay your bills. But in this Babylonian society, you can have a job, you can be working hard and still not be able to pay your bills. That shows you it's not you, it's the corrupt system in which you are in. Any man that goes out and works a full day should be able to pay his bills with the wages that he earns. But in this society in which we live, that is not the situation. A man could work very hard, come home and go to sleep, not even be able to eat, and not be able to keep up with his bills. Because that's how things are in this society. It's corrupt. Okay. Now, what ends up happening too, with regard to this same vein, you take the black man out of the house because why? Because this all started with slavery. This all started with slavery. So with the slave, a man might have a woman, but the man or the woman could be sold off. Even though they're husband and wife, they could be sold off. Even though they have children, they could sell the man off. So the woman used to being by herself or on her own. They could sell your children off. And you can't tell me that this being, even though it happened 100 years ago, you can't tell me, or 200 years is not affecting people today. Then you go into the modern society and you set up a situation where if you are a black man, you're going to get paid at least 30% less than your Caucasian counterpart. So now you can't make ends meet on your salary. Maybe he can make ends meet on his because he's getting 30% more than you. That's the average. That's from recent statistics. So now with the same education and background and experience, he's getting 30% more than you. You go get 30% less. So now he could buy a certain car. You think you could buy it because you work with him. No, you can't buy it because you're making less. And even before that, they have a program in the United States called Federal Housing Administration, FHA. They started this during the Depression. And for the first 50 years of that, black people didn't have access to it. Whereas Caucasian people could buy houses with this program. Government helps you buy houses. Now think about that. You get a house, right? In the United States of America, the greatest asset that anybody has is real estate. As far as physical assets. People are able to retire because he might have bought a house a long time ago. And then their parents bought a house. First, the parents bought a house, right? They bought this house. Then they wait a few years, the house appreciates in value, they sell it, get a bigger house. They have children because they need children, they need a big house, they get children, they buy that, they pay that house off. Now they get old. And guess what? Because they've had that house for 20, 30 years, if it was today, let's say I bought a house 30 years ago. Matter of fact, I can tell you the house I grew up in. The house I grew up in on Long Island cost my parents $16,000. It cost them $16,000. We built that house in 1965, cost $16,000. This year, that house is worth $600,000. $600,000. So if my parents they sold it, and being that we were a dysfunctional family, my brother and I saw none of that money. But that's a different story. If they sold that house today, if they retired and sold that house and retired, they could take $600,000 with them. And if they happen to save any money, they can have that with the 600. Imagine that. So now, if you do that for a few generations, can you see the head start? If you have 50-year head start on somebody, your parents have been doing this for 50 years, right? And now you get to a point 50 years later, and you see the kind of head start that one group would have over the other group. The people that had a head start will never fall behind in that regard. They would be ahead all the time. So you can't expect, just because two people even today have the same job. I got the same background job as a Caucasian man, but because of that background, he's going to have a bigger head start than me. So you cannot expect that as an average, on a collective basis, that the Caucasian man is going to be anywhere behind the black man. It's just not going to happen. You know, just not going to happen on an average. It's just the way it is. But that's okay, because our kingdom is not of this world. And that's what the Most High is showing us. Our kingdom is not of this world. So this Babylonian system is backwards, is unequitable, is unfair. But that's okay. Our kingdom is not of this world. So we praise the Most High. But what does Asatan tell you? He takes all of this. He tells you you're lazy. He tells you you're ignorant. He tells you you're uneducated and stupid. And he causes the black woman to join forces with the Caucasian woman in downing their man. See, you don't down your man. The nation is built up from the man. The nation is built up from the man. The woman, also being the mother of the nation, is built up with her too. But without a man, it's not going to work. The Most High has declared it that way. He's organized it that way. He created the man first. It's in his own image, the man. But Asatans tried to make men be abusive to women. That's why you have pornography. Pornography is a degradation and abuse of women, and it's a degradation of the man. It's degradation. It's been statistically proven that people that watch pornography don't like to have children. They don't have a lot of children. They don't build up the nation. They become self-centered. They become very selfish. Why? Because pornography is only teaching you about your own desires, your own wants. Don't care about what the other person wants and desires. That's not your problem. Whereas in the kingdom of Yah, the man is honoring his wife. The wife is honoring the husband. That alone, the respect and honor that two people have for each other, makes it of a level that's higher than anything this earth can see. So Asatan now has man being a god. He uses the number 6. He tells the woman she could be the goddess, and the man sometimes worships the woman in that way. He tells the man, you're just like God because you know good and evil. See, Asatan lets you think that all knowledge is good. No matter what knowledge it is, it's all good. But that is not true. If that were true, the Most High would have told Adam and Eve, go ahead, eat of any tree you want. It doesn't matter because all knowledge is good. He did not say that. He said, eat of the tree of life. Do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's like the word knowledge is to have an intimate experience with something, right? So that when you introduce food, for example, into your body has knowledge of that food. Whatever thing you introduce into your body gives your body knowledge of that. Okay? Follow me now. So if I introduce to my body fruits and vegetables and healthy foods, whole foods, clean foods, my body's used to that. My body will respond to that. If I introduce my body clean water and exercise and air, my body will respond to that. But if I introduce to my body tobacco, or strong drink, alcohol and liquor, if I introduce to my body processed sugar, what's going to happen to my body? That's not good for my body, is it? That's not good for it at all. In fact, that's destroying my body. So that on one side, the Most High would have us introduce our bodies to things that will build our bodies and minds up. But if all knowledge is good, I could eat anything. I could eat Drano and it should be good for me, right? If I could eat anything, I could be able to eat Drano. I could eat leather. I could eat wood. I could eat whatever and it should be good, but that's not true. not everything that's supposed to go in your body. But Satan will tell you all knowledge is good. But it's not true. There are things you don't want to mess with. Things, and what are those things? Anything that goes against the righteous character and covenant of your Father, you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to deal with it. Sometimes you have to experience it to understand it goes against the righteous character of your Father. Sometimes you do. But once you experience it and recognize it for what it is, then you know you don't want to deal with it. I'll tell you, one time I was with some friends. This is an example. I was with some friends, right? And my friends, we were going to see a basketball game. And my friend said, let's go to a club. Now, I was so ignorant. I was really so ignorant. I didn't understand what they meant. When they said club, I thought they meant dance club. And I thought, okay, let's go to a dance club. It's not going to hurt. I'll go in there for a little while, then we'll leave. So I walked into this club with them. And my senses were totally shocked when I walked in because it wasn't a dance club. You know what kind of club it was? It was a strip club. And I walk in and see all these naked women. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this, man? And they said, my brother, oh, it's all cool. And I sat there for a couple minutes and I couldn't sit there any longer. First off, I didn't understand two things that bothered me. We had to pay $7 to get into this place. And there's naked women. And the naked women dancing and flashing themselves all in front of me. So I'm thinking to myself, why would I pay $7 to watch this woman flash her behind in front? No, it didn't make any sense to me. And I asked them, I said, I mean, I can see if you are at least going to have sex with the woman, but you're paying $7 to have her just bounce up and down in front of you. So then upstairs of this place, there was a restaurant. Believe it, there was a restaurant upstairs. So I went upstairs in the restaurant and I ordered me some fish and chips. And there was an ESPN on the big television. And I spent the night up there until they were ready to leave. And in fact, I had to go downstairs and get them because they were both blowing all their money, throwing money at these women that were just flashing themselves in front of them. I said, what are y'all doing? I knew one of them was unemployed. The other one, I don't know if he worked or not. But I was like, what are y'all doing? Let's get out of here, man. We got to go. So we went out. And they got mad at me and they said, let's go to another club. See, now I know what they meant when they said club. I said, no, we're not going to another club. And you know, one of my friends wanted to fight me. I said, bro, we are not going to none of the places tonight. That's it. But I had to walk in and see it to understand this is not a place I want to be. This is not a place I need to be. And I don't need to go back anymore. I had to experience it. Sometimes we got to do that to know that the places that you don't want to go in. Now, maybe somebody said, well, you should have known that. I'm telling you. When he said club, I really thought it was just like a place people were going to be dancing. This is how long I have not been in this society. I didn't know like that. So I was like, Dad, what's this? I know now, though. But see, I understand now. But see, now, Satan tells us, hey, listen, you got to experience all these things. Otherwise, you don't understand. You're not real well-rounded. All knowledge is good. That is not true. So he tells man you could be God. He knows man's number is 6. He tells you already like God because you can experience all things and you can know everything. All of this is a deception. And all false religion is based on these principles. You don't need to keep the Creator's commandments. Man can be his own God. A woman could be a goddess. Right? All the false religions are based on these things. All right. Now, with these things in mind, let's go back to Revelation chapter 13. We're talking about the beast, the dragon, and the false prophet. So we were talking last night. We read the first part of this thing, and we were reading how it showed that 7-head, 10-horn beast, right, with the 10 crowns on his horns. And we pointed out that these 10 horns, according to Revelation 17, are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but share power as kings for 1 hour with the beast. So that means they're entities on this planet. Now, I want to explain to you now, a beast, I'm going to test you. What is a beast according to Bible prophecy? Talk to me. What is a beast according to Bible prophecy? What is a beast? What is a beast? According to Bible prophecy, what is a beast? It's a kingdom. That's right. A kingdom. That's correct. And today we would call it a government. That's right, a government. And a government is part of a nation, right? So you have nations, which are representative of the kingdom today. It's nations, right? Everybody understand that? So you have nations that are representative of the kingdoms today. They're all nations. You have different nations. Okay. Now, 10 kings share power with the beast. The beast is the overall king of all the nations. That is the head nation. The head nation is in the Vatican City. It is the Vatican, is the head nation. We already said that. Why? Why is it the Vatican? Because we need to understand something. This whole war, this spiritual war that going on between Messiah and the Father and Asatan and his kingdom is a war regarding worship. Asatan wants the earth to worship him. He wants to be king of this earth and have all the earth worship him. All the earth with no dissent. Why does he want all the earth with no dissent? Because when we get to the Messiah's kingdom, all the earth is going to worship the Messiah. There'll be no dissent. Does that make sense? Messiah's kingdom is not going to have any rebellion. In fact, again, let's go back to Revelation chapter 22. Revelation 22, what we read already in verse 3, it says, and there shall be no more curse, but the throne of Yah and of the Lamb shall be in it. And notice what it says, and his servants shall serve him. There's going to be no rebellion in the Messiah's kingdom. Every person that's on the kingdom earth at that time, which is going to be this earth, the Messiah's kingdom in this earth, is not going to have any rebellion in it. There'll be no sin, no unrighteousness. There'll be no death. So Asatan wants his kingdom, and Asatan knows that. So he wants his kingdom on this earth to be like that. He wants no dissent on this earth. He wants everybody with one voice to be down with him. So this is about worship. Now, since he's a deceiver, he doesn't really care if you don't directly worship him. All he needs you to do is worship something he created. That's all he needs you to do. Worship something he created and you're worshiping him. It's like this. I might say, I don't like Coca-Cola. I don't want to drink Coca-Cola. I think Coca-Cola is poison. I'm not supporting Coca-Cola. But then I turn around and drink Dasani water. And the guys that run Coca-Cola have no problem. You know why? Because they own Dasani water. So you drinking Dasani water, you supporting Coca-Cola. Now, I don't have the problem really about Dasani water. I'm just using it as an example. So if I'm saying I don't want to support Coca-Cola, but I drink Dasani water, I'm supporting Coca-Cola. Right? Because Dasani owns Coca-Cola. All right? Or you might say, I don't want to support this Kellogg's company. And then you go to another company and they have a food that Kellogg's owns. You just didn't know Kellogg's owns it. Kellogg's is still getting paid. If I buy Dasani water, Coca-Cola is still getting paid. So I might not directly be buying Coca-Cola. It's the same thing. If you worship a religion that the devil designed, but his name is not on it, but he designed it, you're giving honor to the devil. Even though his name is not on it. It's like Nebuchadnezzar's image. Nebuchadnezzar made an image in Daniel 3. Now, we're not going there right now, but he made an image. Remember, he made an image all of gold. He was rebelling against the Most High, and he wanted people to bow to the image. Now, Nebuchadnezzar did not have people at that moment bowing to him. He wanted everybody to bow to the image. Why? Because it's his image. So if you bow to this image of him, you're giving him honor. It's the same thing. That's why the Bible says that they worshiped the dragon in Revelation 13, which gave power unto the beast. Because the Catholic Church is run, operated, and created by the dragon. So people don't realize when they go into them booths and they confess Hail Marys and they do all this, they don't realize they're worshiping the dragon. They don't realize it. The dragon doesn't care if you realize it or not because he created it. It's like Christianity. You might, in ignorance, I did it. You might be worshiping the Christian, call yourself a Christian and worshiping that religion. You don't know any better. Okay? You don't know any better. But you don't understand you're in the devil's playground because he created that religion. He created the white Jesus. He created the object that you call church with the pews and the crosses all over it. That's all paganism. He created these big buildings that people like to build and call it the church building fund and build some large edifice. That's him. You're giving him honor. When you have women pastors stand in front of you, teaching you, calling themselves elders and pastors, you don't understand. You're worshiping Asatan because he created that system that's not the Most High. And many other things which they do. It's the same with any religion that's not of the Most High. You're worshiping the dragon. And so he doesn't care if you know you're worshiping, as long as you are worshiping something he created. That's what he cares about. Because he knows he's getting the glory. He knows he's getting the glory. And so this whole war is over the simple thing of worship. Satan wants people to worship him. He wants the whole earth to worship him. Messiah knows he's going to have a kingdom because the Father gave him a kingdom, and he knows he's going to have a nation that's worshiping him. He knows that. He's making up his kingdom, which is what the unsealing of the scroll is about. Remember the 7 seals? He's unsealing the book. The book is the book of life. He knows that book contains his kingdom. That's the people of his kingdom. And when he finishes unsealing that book, he's going to take possession of his people and his kingdom. Satan knows this. So Satan is trying to give the argument that if the entire earth worships him without any dissent, that Messiah has no right to take this earth, because Adam gave Satan dominion. He gave it to him, and he did. And if nobody chooses the creator on this planet, then Satan can make this statement: this is my earth now. The people that you created on it want me. They don't want you. But that's why the Father's Spirit is so important. Because the people that are following the truth in the Father's Spirit and keeping his covenant are actually dissenting against the devil's government. And when you dissent against the devil's government and you're following the Father's government, you're acknowledging that this earth belongs to the Father. See, when you disobey the Father's commandments, you're not giving the Father any glory. But when you're obedient to the Father's commandments, when you're obedient to the covenant, you are acknowledging the government of the Father. You are acknowledging that he is the true king of this earth. You're acknowledging the Messiah as king because Father gave him this earth as his kingdom. And then you're saying, in doing that, you're also saying you don't acknowledge Satan as any king or authority on this planet. And that's simply by your obedience. That's why, brothers and sisters, we don't need to go marching on Washington about anything to demand any rights from any man. All we need to do is what the Bible tells us. This is the conclusion of the whole matter, Solomon learned. Fear Yah and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. So this whole thing is about worship. So when people look at Revelation 13 and they start talking about a computer chip, or they start talking about what do you call that, RFID chip, or they start talking about all of these things, it's foolish, because it's not based on these things. It's based on the object of worship. Satan don't care about a chip. He cares about who you're worshiping. The Father doesn't care about no chip. He cares about who you're worshiping. And by acknowledging the Father and giving honor to his commandments and receiving his spirit of righteousness, you are choosing the kingdom of the Father and the Messiah. By going against his commandment, by doing anything against his commandment, following any of these religions that are man-made and man-made up and man-controlled, you're following Satan's kingdom. And that's why the Bible says in Revelation chapter 13, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So they are acknowledging the beast. They're acknowledging the dragon. Okay? They're acknowledging the beast and the dragon. And the way this world is going right now, we can see, and you can see it very plainly, there is a proliferation. For example, let me tell you, 30 years ago, I'm an older guy, so I can talk about 30 and 40 years ago. But 30 and 40 years ago, you had homosexuals. You had homosexuals, but most of them was what we call, what people call in society, in the closet. What that means, I mean, they did their sodomy. They were having sex putting their penises in places they weren't supposed to be with each other in secret. But now we're in a situation where people are encouraged to show their homosexuality openly, to show their lesbianism openly. And they're even encouraged to do a thing that people are calling marriage. But I want to tell you biblically, and I wouldn't get upset. You know, people, the Christians get all upset. You can't call it marriage. Listen, Bible marriage can only be between a man and a woman, because in the Bible marriage, a man and a woman come together and have sex. That's what makes it a marriage. They become one flesh. The part of the man that the Creator made to go into the part of the woman that was ready to receive, that creates a marriage bond. That's one flesh. And they are capable of having children. The woman is capable of receiving a seed from a man and bringing forth a child. That is marriage. There's no two men that could duplicate that. There's no two women that could duplicate that. They can call it whatever they want to call it, but they cannot do that. Therefore, they can call it marriage, but to the Most High, He doesn't acknowledge it as a marriage because it doesn't have the elements that He created to be a marriage. But today they're trying to say they're getting married. They're trying to say that they're engaged or whatever, husband and wife or husband and husband or whatever you want to call it. But this is a sign of the end, because it's rebellion. And even the Pope acknowledged that there's same-sex marriage is a sign of the end. And it's a sign of rebellion against the Most High and His commandments. When He say, man shall not lie with man and woman shall not lie with women, this is abomination to the Most High. He says that in His word. It's very plain. And I might say, and I want to also touch while I'm on this subject, the man or the woman that, and there's people that legitimately are born that don't have a desire for the opposite sex. There are people that are legitimately born that way. Again, Christians, because they're in a perverted religion, they pervert this and they try to deny what's obvious. It is obvious. There are certain little boys born and they just don't have a propensity or a desire for a little girl or to talk to girls or to be around girls, except they want to be like girls. There's little girls born that have a desire, propensity to be a little boy. They don't want to be like little girls. They want to play baseball and football. They want to get dirty like a man does. How does the Bible handle that when it's like that, when they grow up like that? First, I need you to understand, since sin came and perverted everything, the gene pool is perverted. So you might have a child that's born blind or a child that's born deaf. You might have a child that's born with one arm. You might have a child that's born with one leg or no legs. This is the gene pool perverted. You also have children that are born with defects in their mind, defects in their spirit. So that because of the sin that's in the gene pool might cause a boy to be born and not have a desire for women, might cause a woman to be born, not have a desire for men. Well, what are you supposed to do in that case? What are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to handle that? Messiah tells you how to handle that. See, if you're a man and you don't have a desire for a woman, right? That means you don't want to have sex with a woman. Now, Messiah did not design you for sodomy. No man is designed for sodomy. Sodomy is a learned behavior. That's true. Sodomy is a learned behavior, just like lesbianism and women licking each other up is a learned behavior. You don't have a natural propensity to do that. You just don't have a propensity for the opposite sex. That's definitely true. They could definitely do that. But what the Bible says with regard to that, He says it's better for you to be a eunuch. He said there are some that are made eunuchs of men. That means there are men whose sexual organs have been altered by other men. They call it castration. And after the castration, the man can't have sex with anybody, not with a woman, right? But he said, I'm looking for the scripture, but the Messiah said that there are some that are eunuchs of men, and there are some that are that become eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. What does that mean? That means if you can't have sex with the opposite sex, it's better for you not to have sex with anybody. Not have sex at all. It's better for you to do that. If you don't have a desire for the opposite sex as far as sexual activity, then you just don't have a desire for sex, period. Don't be with anybody. and do that for the kingdom of heaven so you don't commit sodomy or lesbianism. Okay? That's the Bible answer. So there are some people that should not be with people. I mean, and you know, we go by what people look like. We very superficial in our society. So a man sees a very beautiful woman and he said, well, somebody got to be with her. That doesn't mean she's supposed to be with somebody. You don't know what's going on in her head. You don't know what happened to her spirit. You don't know what she's been through. Some women need to be alone. And then there's some men, I think you women could testify. There's some men that's just not good for any woman, no matter what they look like. How handsome they are, how devastatingly cute they are, how charismatic they are. You're not supposed to be with any woman. To be with a woman means pain for that woman. Okay? So not everybody on this earth, especially in these last days, is supposed to be with somebody else. That's the truth about it. And what Asatan has done is he has made it so that it's almost like you got leprosy if you're single. If you don't want to be with anybody, it's like you got leprosy or something, like something's wrong with you. But there ain't nothing wrong with people that's not supposed to be with somebody being alone. Better to be by yourself. Right? Some people are like that. Some people like that naturally. Some people do it for the kingdom of heaven. You understand? That's just how some people are. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a sign of the last days, the proliferation of things like a homosexuality, the proliferation of things like we have a Federal Reserve that prints paper and we decide this paper is worth something and people kill each other for this paper. People do whatever they do for this paper. People go crazy for this paper. They think salvation is in this paper. Isn't that crazy though? So if an entity can print these pieces of paper and put certain words on it, and people will rob, steal, lie, kill for that piece of paper. Doesn't that sound crazy? I mean, if it was gold, right? At least gold and silver have a beauty to it. They're precious. It's a precious metal. I mean, you can half understand somebody going crazy for a piece of gold or silver, though we're not doing that either. But for a piece of paper or for credit, but that's where we at today. That's how perverted things are. That's where we are. That's where we are. Okay, that's how we roll. That's how we roll today. And there's many, many other examples I can give you, but we're talking about worship. So here's worship. You bowing down to man-made images and man-made things that can't. You bowing down to statues of saints that can't help you. You giving honor to a Santa Claus, right? Ain't no such thing as Santa Claus. You know there's no such thing as Santa Claus, but you give honor to something that doesn't exist. And you tell your kids a lie that there's a Santa Claus. You tell them a lie, and you tell them a lie to make them happy. How perverted is that? You tell your children a lie to make them happy. Santa Claus is coming to town. Thank you. Right? Matthew 19:12. Thank you. Yeah, let's look at it. Since sister went through the trouble of finding it for us. Matthew 19:12. Matthew 19:12. There it is. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. Thank you. Now, this is where the Messiah is talking about adultery, and he says you should never put your wife away. If you marry a woman that's put away, that's adultery. And then the disciples say, man, it's good not to marry. You get in this kind of trouble. And he said, all men, see, this is where people get mad. Just because a person gets divorced, some people need to be with somebody. There's people that don't need to be with somebody, and there's some people that need to be with somebody. And the Most High knows if you need to be with somebody, and if you wait on him, he'll give you the opportunity to do that. Most people don't wait on the Most High. They go searching. And if you're searching, you're making the decision. If you make the decision, you are already in trouble. If the Messiah is making the decision for your spouse, you are on solid ground. You're going to have some problems because you got issues and the person got issues, but you know the Messiah set you together. There's no question when your spirit telling you that. But if you making the decision, you're going to have problems, then you're never going to get over them. And it's not going to end well. So he said, all men cannot receive this saying. See, just because two people get divorced don't mean they're not supposed to get remarried. Some people can't have that. They got to, you know what I'm saying? People make mistakes. Isn't that true? People make mistakes. People make mistakes, especially if you're a heathen, before you know the truth of the word, and you're a heathen, and you marry somebody, and y'all think y'all in the same church, 2 Jehovah's Witnesses, 2 SDAs, 2 Mormons, and you think, okay, you know, I'm good. I'm with somebody, we're both in the same church. Well, that's cool, but that doesn't mean you're supposed to be together. And maybe you get married in some state situation, and you sign papers. And if you're a man, you're in trouble for real then, and don't have no children, especially if you're a Hebrew, because you're going to get hung by your Buster Brown when they done with you. Okay? But he said, not everybody can receive this saying, save to whom it was given. Then he said, there are some, verse 12, there are some eunuchs which are so born from their mother's womb. There are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. There be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him to receive it. See that? So eunuch means somebody that's not having sex. So maybe you are somebody that has homosexual tendencies. You're born with it. You can't help it. Been with you all your life. You can't remember a time when you didn't feel this way. Okay. Don't go sodomize anybody, and don't let nobody sodomize you. Don't be with anybody. Have all kind of friends, but don't be with anybody, because that's against the word. Become a eunuch for the kingdom of heaven's sake. You were born that way from your womb. Or maybe, unfortunately, we're in a real perverted society. Maybe you're a little boy and you got molested by some man, or you're a little girl and you got molested when you was like 8, 7, 9 years old, and it just messed your head up. Don't be with anybody until you completely heal of this. Unless you're never completely healed, don't be with anybody, because your head's messed up. Your head's messed up. Acknowledge it. Don't say, you know, it didn't affect me. You know it did. So your head's messed up. You got to chill out. But what happens with Asatan, the people that have been molested, they go through dozens of partners, man, trying to find something that they're never going to find because they never gave themselves a chance to heal. And it's the same with relationships. You choose the wrong person. You chose the wrong person, or maybe you were the wrong person and you weren't ready. Then you know what? What most people do in those scenarios, they're rushing at lightning speed to get the next person as quickly as possible. And guess what? The baggage that they have from their last relationship comes in the new one. It's like I saw a doctor one time. I was in health class in school. Y'all might have heard this too. When you have sex with an individual, you're not only having sex with an individual, you're having sex with every individual that person had sex with. That's nasty when you think of it like that. But that's how it is. It's the same. You get in a relationship and you're not finished with your last one. You just, it's, you know, maybe you're not with that person, but the scent is still on you in a spiritual manner. The scent of that individual, the scent of that relationship is still on you. You can't just get rid of it. It takes time. It's got to wear off slowly. You got to give the Most High time to heal you. You got to go get over whatever the issues were that caused you to get in that bad situation in the first place. Somebody might say, well, the woman was getting beat up and she's getting beat up and everybody feels bad for her. Yeah, you don't want a woman getting beat up, but why did she choose this dude in the first place? What caused her to decide to be with this dude? Well, he deceived her. Well, there must have been signs. You see? And so the woman gets out of that relationship. You got to give herself time lest she choose another wife abuser. Because most women do that. They go from one to another. And some women will have this. You ever hear a woman say, you ever feel like this? Is there something on my forehead saying, I'm a sucker, just choose me and beat me up? Women feel like that. Is this something that's written on my forehead to say I'm some sort of tramp and you could just use me? Because everybody seems to do that to me. You know what it is? You're not giving yourself a chance to get over those baggage. You rushing into the next situation because you don't want to be by yourself. Better to be by yourself, believe it. Better to be by yourself. Better to wait. If the person's out there for you, they're going to be for you. This ain't Hollywood. If the Most High has somebody for you, you're going to get that person. Don't worry. But if there's nobody out there, you're supposed to be by yourself, then you're supposed to be by yourself. This is the real. But Asatan got the earth thinking you got to rush to somebody, or you got to be with a little boy, or you got to be with the same sex, or you got to do something. Just don't be by yourself. Anything but that. Remember now, we want to grow to the point where we recognize the Father's Spirit and we're never alone when we're with the Father's Spirit. See, we got to grow into that. so that we're never alone if we're with the Father's Spirit. If his Spirit is with us, we're recognizing it. The Messiah told the disciples, you all going to leave me alone, yet I'm not alone because my Father's with me. And he wasn't just, that was no play on words. He knew the Father was with him. And in fact, he died when he was on the cross because at that moment, the Father withdrew from Messiah. Father withdrew from him. And he said, my Allah, Ali, Ali, why hast thou, lama sakbatani, why hast thou forsaken me? Because now he withdrew because Messiah became sin for us. And the sin of our, stain of our sin, the nation's sin was on him. So the Father withdrew from his own son. That's what killed him. The weight of our sins and the withdrawal of his Father's Spirit killed him. We should be so close with the Father that it would kill us for the Father's Spirit to be away from us. We should learn. We should develop by the grace of the Father, by his mercy, by his prayer, and by trust and studying of his word to live with his Spirit like that always. Then you'll never feel alone no matter where you are. You'll never feel alone because you'll know he's with you. So now, in the book of Revelation, we can see the Bible says very plainly they worshiped the dragon that gave power to the beast, and they worshiped the beast. So we read this the other day, yesterday. Now, also verse 7. Oh, I wanted to go over something. There one of the brothers, one of the ox. I don't always do this, but I want to answer this question. Some people got confused when I saw in chapter 11 of the book of Revelation. I want to show you this. We went through this last night. Chapter 11 of the book of Revelation. Remember, we were looking at chapter 11. We're talking about the two witnesses, right? And when we're discussing the two witnesses in verse 7 of chapter 11, it says, notice it says, when they, that is the two witnesses, shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. Now notice, what makes war with the two witnesses in this verse? Look at the verse very closely. What does it say? What makes war with the two witnesses? What makes war with them? It says a beast that rises out of the bottomless pit. Do you see that? It says a beast that rises up out of the bottomless pit makes war with them and kills them. It kills what? The two witnesses. Now, what is it killing? It's not killing the people that are giving the witness. I want to make this clear. It's killing the witness. What's the difference? So if I tell you, keep your mouth shut on such a subject, I've just killed your witness on that subject. Does that make sense to you? So if I say to you, keep your mouth shut with this subject, I don't want to hear nothing from you with regard to this subject, and you obey that, and you don't talk on that subject, I've just effectively killed your witness with regard to that subject. So if the 144,000 are preaching a message of the two witnesses, and then after they preach their message, they are stopped from preaching anymore, the witness has been killed by the beast. Does that make sense? What is a beast again? Could somebody would please remind me? What is a beast represent in Bible prophecy? What does a beast represent? It represents a government or a nation. Everybody got that? That's right. It represents a kingdom, a nation, a government. Very good. That's exactly right. So now a government or a kingdom or a nation will outlaw the word of the 144,000, stopping their witness. But really, they won't be able to stop the witness. The Father will have said it's time to stop the witness because the plagues are about to fall. So their witness will be effectively stopped. It'll be killed in that regard. You understand? Testing 1, 2, 3. Everybody got that? Now, in Revelation chapter 9, because the imagery that was used is the bottomless pit, some people get confused with what it says in chapter 9. Let's look at chapter 9, Revelation chapter 9. And I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 3. Watch very carefully. I want you to see, do you see any mention of a beast in these verses? Notice what it says. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the pit smoke, locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as scorpions of the earth have power. Was there any mention of a beast in those verses? Did it say anything about a beast? Did it mention anything about a government? Did it say anything about a nation or a kingdom. It did not. So this bottomless pit is representing the earth, but it was no government that rose up out of it. What rose up out of it were locusts. And the star that fell from heaven opened it up for locusts to come out. Well, who was the star that fell from heaven? That's pretty easy. Who was the star that fell from heaven? It was Asatan. It was the devil. So he opened up the earth to bring forth something that stung people. Remember, the sting is in the tail. The tail represents the prophet that does what? Teaches lies. Remember that? So a scorpion sting is in its tail. The devil bring forth the scorpion sting in his tail, a prophet that teaches lies, or religious power. That's why when you're looking at the bottomless pit in Revelation chapter 9, you're not talking about a beast, you're talking about a religious power. In this case, we're talking about Islam. Okay? It's different from what came out of the bottomless pit in Revelation chapter 11, because in Revelation 11, it showed a beast coming up, or a government or a kingdom coming up out of the bottomless pit, and a kingdom that was going to attack the two witnesses. You see the difference? So you have a religion on one side, you have a government on the other side. Whereas in the religion, it said there was an angel of the bottomless pit whose name in the Hebrew tongue Abaddon, in the Greek his name is Apollyon. That is the devil, and he's using this entity called Muhammad. Okay? That's a religion. Versus chapter 11, that's a government. And in chapter 13, we're also talking about what? A government. It's a beast. Okay? A government. So the government, we're knowing the government to be the Vatican, and we know in this Vatican is under the control of the dragon, and we know what they're doing. They're attacking, blaspheming, trying to destroy the Most High and his kingdom and his people. See, that's why we read in Revelation chapter 12, verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman. Remember, the woman is representing the nation of Israel, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. See, the nation of Israel is not in one place right now. It's scattered. Why? Because of the sins of our fathers. We've been scattered from the nation. We've been scattered from the land. We're all over the earth. We're coming out of slavery. And he's trying to make war with the seed that's left, the remnant. And he's identifying them because they're obedient to the Father's commandments, and they have the witness of the Messiah. The witness is the Father's spirit of righteousness. That's the witness. So the devil recognizes the people that are obedient to the commandments of the Father and are wearing the Father's spirit of righteousness. He recognizes them, and he's trying to destroy them. He wants to discourage them. He wants them to change sides, because as long as they are obedient to the Father's commandments, as long as they receive the Father's spirit of righteousness, they are acknowledging the government of heaven, and they are saying, devil, you have no government here that we're acknowledging. So there in Revelation chapter 13, it says it was given him, that is to the beast, verse 5, there was given the beast a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given him to continue 42 months. So he was blaspheming the Most High. He's speaking, how is he blaspheming? He's calling himself the Holy Father, and he's got the majority of planet Earth calling him Holy Father. He's got the majority of planet Earth acknowledging his church as some entity that deserves worship and praise, that deserves honor. He's doing that, and that's blasphemy. And all of the religious entities that are after his order, that is Islam, Judaism, Christianity, and all of his various forms and denominations, are after the order of the beast. They're in the image of the beast. Image, remember that word image, you see it in Revelation 13 later on, the word image, they're in the image of the beast, thereby they are also giving glory to the beast. And in giving glory to the beast, this image, remember the beast is not only political in its nature, it's not only political, it's religious. Remember, you had pagan Rome, political part, and you had papal Rome, the religious part. Remember, because this is about worship. Government is going to be involved with it also, but it's about worship as well. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Can you plug this? I think there's a plug near you. Plug near you? Okay, can you plug this in? Thanks. Good. Okay. So, okay. So now the Bible in verse 5 of Revelation 13, and there was given him a mouth and great, speaking great things and blasphemy. His power was given to him to continue 42 months. 42 months. Talk to me now. How many years? Y'all should know by now. How many years is 42 months? Talk to me. Y'all should know that. 3.5 years. Very good. How many days in Bible time is 42 months? How many days is 42 months? That's right, 1,260 days, 3.5 years, 42 months, all the same time period. So we know that there was a time called the Dark Ages where Rome dominated the earth in terms of, as far as Europe at that time being the center of the earth, and Rome dominated it. Why was Europe the center at that time? Because at the end of time, remember, the Bible tells us Gog and Magog are the ones that's going to lead the charge to try to take the city. Gog and Magog are descendants of Japhet. Let's take a look at that again. Let's take a look at these scriptures so that we know what we're talking about. We're not talking anything crazy. I'm saying to you that the Caucasian man is destined to rule the earth in these last days, and to actually not only rule the earth, but he's destined to fight against the Most High. They can look at Revelation chapter 20, verse 8. Revelation chapter 20, verse 8, and shall go out, talking about Asatan, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. And notice the two nations he uses as examples, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sands of the sea. So we need to know who biblically is Gog and Magog. Who are these people? And let's take a look at Ezekiel chapter 38. Ezekiel chapter 38. We're going to see who Gog and Magog is and why I'm saying to you that the European man is the centerpiece of Asatan's attack on the people of Yah as well as the government of Yah. Notice again, Ezekiel chapter 38, actually 39, Ezekiel 39, verse 1. Ezekiel 39, verse 1. I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 3. Therefore, thou son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, thus saith the Most High Yahweh, behold, I'm against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. So Gog is the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. We need to find out who Meshach and Tubal is. And he says, I will turn thee back and leave but the sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. And I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thy arrows to fall out of thy right hand. See, because Gog and Magog are used to, they're warlike people. They're used to taking over places. That's why you see them come over to this land in the North America and destroy the Indian and take it. They went down to what's now called Australia, destroyed the Aborigine and take it. That's why they came to Africa and snatched people from there and made them slaves. They are warlike people. And so there you have Gog, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Who are these people? Let's go back to Genesis chapter 10. Genesis chapter 10. Yeah, Genesis in the beginning, the genesis of it. And let's look at who Gog and Magog are. Notice again, Genesis chapter 10, I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 5, Genesis 10, verse 1 to 5. Now, these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. Now, look, the sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog. There's Magog. And Gog is the chief prince of Magog. Okay? And Tubal. Madai and Yaphan and Tubal and Meshach. Yeah, Tubal and Meshach. All of these are sons of Japheth and Teras. Okay? And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz. That's where these so-called Jews come from. They're the synagogue of Satan that call themselves Jews and are not. They come from Ashkenaz. That's why they're called Ashkenazi Jews. Rephath and Togarmah. And the sons of Yavan. Now, if you look these places up, look these things up when you get a chance. This is Greece. This is Russia. This is Ireland. This is Norway. This is UK. That's what these people are. These are European people. It says, verse 5, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after his families and their nations. So you can see Gog and Magog at the end, the people of Europe ruling Europe. It's prophesied. And of course, we know that the Catholic Church was based and originated and comes out of Rome, which is part of Japhet. Okay? So we know this is a European thing at the end. So one thing we can know for sure, you want to know if your religion is true or not? If it was founded by Europeans, you know you're on the wrong track. I'm just saying. Because Europeans at the end are the ones that are against the Most High. So you want to find the truth? You better find some religion that was founded by the Most High. Well, how do you know if it was founded by the Most High? Well, you got to know what his people are. Who are his people? You need to connect with his people. You need to connect with the Most High's people to make sure your religion not found one of them that's coming out of Europe, man. Because Gog and Magog is coming out of there. Now, I'm not saying everybody from Japhet's going to be lost. That's obviously not true. Because the Bible says he's going to take some of them and he's going to bring them into the kingdom. He's going to take some of them and bring them into the kingdom. Yes, the Gentiles are going to see the truth and come. Some of them are going to come to, not all, not even the majority. Some of them are going to come to the truth. How do we know that? Hey, brother, where are you getting that from? Well, let me show you. Isaiah chapter 60. Isaiah chapter 60. Isaiah 60. Let's start in Isaiah 60 and find out about that. See, I don't want anybody thinking, you know, brother Gabar is a racist. He hates white people. That's just white people that are feeling guilty. But that's not the truth. Notice again in Isaiah 60, from verse 1 down to verse 3. Notice what it says. Isaiah, actually, from verse 1 to 5. Notice what it says. Isaiah 60, 1 to 5. Arise, shine, for thy light is come. The glory of Yahweh is risen upon thee. Behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. That's what's going on right now. But Yahweh shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. Notice, and the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see. All they gather themselves together. They come to see. Thy son shall come from afar, and thy daughter shall be nursed at thy side. For then thou shalt see and flow together. Thy heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. The forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. See, there it is. So he's saving some Gentiles. No question about that. He's saving some Gentiles. But those that are following these religions made by Gentiles, that's going to be a problem. They're going to have an issue there. Let's look at one more witness in Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah 11. Notice what it says in Isaiah chapter 11. I'm going to start at verse 10. In fact, let's just look at verse 10. Well, let's go from verse 10, because the Most High is going to also, I want to show you here, there's a differentiation made between the Gentiles and the nation of Israel by the bloodline. Notice from verse 10 down to verse 13. Notice what it says. In that day there shall be a root of Jesse. Who is that? David? No, that's the Messiah. Which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. So Gentiles are going to come and see the Hebrew Messiah, a root of Jesse. Note it didn't say root of Europe. It say root of Jesse, Israelite. You're going to see this Hebrew Messiah. That's the true Messiah. You're going to see him, and it says they're going to seek him, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Most High shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, so not just Gentile, but to cover a remnant of his people which shall be left from Assyria, from Egypt, from Pathros and Cush, all this is Africa, from Elam, from Shinar, from Hamath, and from the isles of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and shall gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. See? So you got Gentiles going to come, and you got the recovery of his chosen people. All of that is coming. So yeah, I'm not saying that all Gentiles are going to be lost, but I want to say the majority of y'all going to be lost. Why? Because you following this dragon with these man-made religions. And you in power. See, it's hard. It's very difficult for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Isn't that what the Messiah said? He said it's very difficult for a rich man. Why? Remember what we read earlier. He said, don't let me be rich, because if I be rich, I'll forget my God. I'll think I don't need you. And that's what happens with rich people. Well, it's not just rich people. It's people that have privilege and power. When you have privilege and power for thousands of years, it's been passed down to you. Very difficult for you to acknowledge your need. It's very difficult to acknowledge people that has been always lower than you as chosen. Very difficult for you to acknowledge that your kingdom that your father's created is going to be destroyed. And a kingdom from the creator and his people are going to take your place. Very difficult to humble yourself. Now, the people that are poor, especially the Caucasian that are poor, they have a better shot, because they have a better shot of being humbled, at acknowledging their sin, at acknowledging the sins of their fathers. The people that are poor have better opportunity. That's why you Caucasians that are poor, don't despise your poverty. The Most High is looking out for you in your poverty. He's looking out for you so that you might be saved. So you've been poor. Maybe you've been living in difficult family situations. It happens to a lot of Caucasian people. You've been in difficult family situations. You've been treated like called trash and all this, and lived in difficult neighborhoods, probably with black people and Puerto Ricans and black people and Spanish people, right? So y'all live like that. You should be thankful, be praising the Most High, because you have a chance to acknowledge the sins of your fathers. You have a chance to be humble and be saved in the spirit of the Most High. Yeah. You can be among those Gentiles that are redeemed. Because your cousins, the rich ones, your cousins that are proud, that don't want to acknowledge their sins of their father, they're going to be outside the city. They're going to try to take the city without Satan, and they're going to lose. They're going to lose. I know this truth is hard for people, but you know what? We got to speak the truth from the word. We can't do no other. But notice again, Revelation chapter 13, back to Revelation 13, looking at Revelation 13, verse 7 and 8, Revelation 13, 7 and 8, notice again, and it was given unto him, that is to the beast, to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. He overcame the saints. How did he what do you mean overcame the saints? How did he overcome the saints? Again, he kills the witness. He outlaws the witness. He causes the saints to run. That's why we're going to be fleeing, right? We're going to be fleeing cities. We're going to be fleeing and going to be into woods. We're going to be into deserts, into mountain places. Most High will guide us, direct us, and he will most of all strengthen us to be able to do that. And we'll be able to run and not be weary, and walk and not faint. You remember when Elijah talked to Ahab, and he told Ahab it was going to rain, and he went and he bowed his knees to the Most High, and he bowed 7 times. And on the 7th time, the servant said, I see a little cloud come out of the sky about the size of a man's hand. He said, tell the king it's getting ready to pour. And Ahab was in a chariot with a horse. Now, you know a horse can run pretty fast now. And Elijah outran the horse to the gate of Ahab's palace. You read the account. He outran the horse. How was he able to do that? By the same spirit that caused him to be taken by a whirlwind into heaven. By the same spirit that caused Andrew to baptize somebody and be taken away in the world and find somewhere else. It's the same spirit. So when we're ready when it's time for the Most High to have us flee these areas, when the witness is killed and it's time to go forward, when the dragon overcomes us in that regard and we're not giving any more witness because it's over at that time, he's going to give us strength to run and not be weary, to walk and not faint. He can do that. He caused Moses on 2 separate occasions to go 40 days and 40 nights with not only no food, but no water. That's humanly impossible. That's humanly impossible. You can live for weeks without food. You could only live 10 days with no water at the maximum. If you don't have any water, 10 days, you're dead. Your body's mostly made up of water. You don't have any, you're going to die. Moses did 80 days, no food, no water. And when he come down, his strength was strong. His face was glowing. That's the power of the Spirit of the Father. See? So don't worry about where you are right now. If the Father's not going to put you to rest, and he might, if he's going to have you live, he will empower you to live. He will empower you. Okay? So, just so, when it's time, when he makes war with the saints and he overcomes them, and power given him over all kindreds, tongue, and nations, that's when the strong delusion comes. Remember what the Bible says? He will send them strong delusion. Remember that? That's I believe that's First Thessalonians, or is it Second Thessalonians? Second Thessalonians, chapter 2. Yep. Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7 down to verse 12. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. Then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Asatan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. It's talking about the papacy here. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause, Yah shall send them strong delusion. See, that's when it says right here, that goes to Revelation chapter 13, verse 7. And power was given him over all kindreds and nations and tongues. See, they shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. For this cause. For what cause? Because they did not want the truth. They didn't have a love of the truth that they might save. So for this cause, Yah shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. See? They give him power over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And then verse 8 of Revelation 13 says, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. See, everybody that's under the strong delusion is going to worship him. Not only that, what we're going to find as we read Revelation chapter 16 is Asatan himself is going to impersonate the Messiah. He's going to come as Messiah. That's the dragon. He's going to be seen. He's going to be seen, but he's not going to be seen in how he really looks. He's going to be seen as if he's the Messiah, and people are going to be deceived by him. And they're going to worship him. Messiah is not going to appear in such a way when he first comes to the earth that some will see him and some will not see him. When he comes, every eye shall see him. And everybody, and the Bible says we're going to be caught up in the sky to meet him. So the redeemed will come up into the sky and meet him in the air. But when Asatan comes as Messiah, that's not going to take place. He's going to be on the earth. He's going to look like Messiah. He's going to be brown. I'm gonna tell you right now, he's gonna be brown, and he's gonna look like the Messiah. He's gonna have a melody in his voice. He's gonna have power of spirit and peace around him, and people are gonna think that's the Messiah. But we who understand the word and understand the truth, his spirit will not drive with our spirit, because our spirit will be of the spirit of the Father's righteousness. It will not drive with the false spirit, and we'll know he's not the Messiah. Not only that, we'll be on the run when he shows up anyway, because the reason he's going to show up is because plagues have been falling on the earth and the people going stark raving mad, and he's going to bring order out of the chaos. He's going to bring order out of the chaos. But that's later on in Revelation. For now, we're going to see how the whole world is going to worship the dragon and going to worship the beast, that is the papacy, and all of the image of the papacy and all of the religions of the papacy, that is Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. All the earth's going to follow, whose names are not written in the book of life. So in other words, the people that are keeping the commandments of Yah and the witness of the Messiah, the Father's righteousness, are not going to worship. That is why the devil's going to induce the earth to try to kill us, because he's got to get the whole world on his side. And this one stubborn, small group of people will not acknowledge his kingdom. He's going to want to kill us. And we gladly die for the Father's kingdom. But there's going to come a time when our death will not further the Father's kingdom, and he won't allow Satan to kill us. He's going to want to kill us, but he won't allow him to kill us after a certain point, because the blood of saints must be seed for the furtherance of the Father's cause. If your blood is shed, precious, the Bible says, in the sight of Yahweh is the blood of his saints. So if you are dying for his sake, it means somebody's going to be saved as a result of your death. There is no death of any saint of Yah that doesn't result in another person being saved. Stephen's death resulted in the conversion of a young man named Saul. who became the Apostle Paul. And we see how that went. See, we see how that went. So no saint is going to die unless his blood is seed for another saint to live, or another saint to be born again in the Spirit of the Father. So there's going to come a time when the last saint is sealed in the Father's Spirit. There's going to come a time when the last person has received the truth and repented of their sin. And then there's no more. At that point, the strong delusion will have come, and the people will follow that. And there'll be no more deaths of the saints at that time, because there'll be no more people that's going to, there's no, to let Asatan put to death one of the saints with no result in terms of another saint being saved is a waste. Father will not waste the blood of his saints. That's why at the end, the 144,000 are going to be translated without seeing death. Just like Aliyah was translated without seeing death. Just like Anak was translated without seeing death. Okay? Now, back to Revelation. We're going to go a little overtime today because we're not doing part 2 today. So we're going to go a little overtime. Bear with me just a little few minutes, okay? But I want to get a little taste in the next one now. Revelation chapter 13. We're going to start at verse 9 and go down to verse 10 for now to finish this part of it up. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. What does that mean? We talked about the sons of Japhet. We talked about how they have been warlike and taken over kingdoms by the sword. It's going to come back on them. You took over the North American continent. The Canadians came from Europe and killed the Indians up there. The English came from Europe and killed the Indians here. The Spaniards came from Europe and killed the ones that's in Mexico. Right? All the Spaniards, the French, the English, the Dutch came from Europe and took people from West Africa as slaves. Israelites as slaves. They're going to have to pay for all of that. They're going to have hell literally to pay for all of that. Except they repent of their sins and the sins of their fathers, they're going to receive that. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Messiah said, if you live by the sword, what's going to happen? You're going to die by the sword. So the people of the Caucasian nations that have came all over the earth, that killed Aborigines, that took Israelites from the West African continent, that came enslaved and killed and raped and pillaged people and took them to different countries, that came and killed and raped and pillaged Indians, they're going to receive everything they got back. And in fact, the Bible says they're going to receive double. They're going to receive double. Yeah. Our Caucasian friends that hear this message need to repent of their sins, because you know what? You really got a problem. You really got a problem. And those of you that have repented, praise for the Most High Yah for your conversion, because you have covered a multitude of sins. The Bible says, he that brings a sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death and hide a multitude of sins. So praise the Most High Yah for those that have come to the truth. For your sins have been washed away and you're plugged into the nation literally. But for the majority of your cousins, they're going to have a problem. So now, let's start now at verse 11. Remember what we said earlier. This is a picture of chapter 13 of how the Catholic Church, the papacy, became the most powerful entity on the planet in verse 1. And the rest of this chapter shows how they got to that point. So let's look at Revelation chapter 11, where there's a second kingdom that is arising. Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. I'm sorry, Revelation 13, 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Let's stop right here. Obviously, we know that a beast is a nation, government, or kingdom. So this government or kingdom rose up out of the earth. Now, if you recall that the first one, the beast that is before this one, came up out of the sea. If you notice Revelation 13:1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having upon his 7 heads, 10 horns, right? But this second beast comes up out of the earth. What's the difference? Well, we obviously saw in Revelation chapter 17, verse 15, that the sea represents peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues. So if the sea a representation of peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues, what that means is, generally speaking, when you see the sea, you're talking about generally, listen carefully, you're talking about Gentiles fighting each other for power. Remember we read also today in Isaiah 60, it said, the forces of the sea shall be converted to thee, for the Gentiles shall come to thy light and to the rise of thy rising, to the sun of thy rising, or something like that. It said, remember that said, it said in Isaiah 60, it said, the forces of the sea shall be converted unto thee. That means it's talking about Gentile nations that are fighting each other for power. Because all of the nations came out of strife and power and raping and pillaging and killing each other. That's how people become nations. So when this first beast came up as a result of Gentile nations fighting each other, and this one rose up and became the most powerful one. But this other one, though it also came out of rape and pillage, it wasn't fighting against Gentiles. It came up in an area that was void of Gentiles. Who was that? What country came up in an area that was void of Gentiles, that didn't have to fight Gentile nations to become supreme? What country came up like that? Came up quietly, and notice what it says. It had 2 horns like a lamb. That means it appeared to be a representation of the Messiah. Appeared to be a representation of who they call Christ. But actually, when it opens its mouth, it's representing the dragon. What nation came up in relative quietness that nobody was paying attention to, and it grew into a power that was worldwide? There's only one nation that fits the description. It is the United States of America. It's the only nation. It didn't kill Gentiles, it killed Hebrews when it came over here. See them Indians? They're also Hebrews. They're Hebrew. Yeah, y'all didn't know that, did you? Them Indians that came over here, they call them Native Americans. Them Indians came over here from being scattered after the Assyrian army took the kingdom of the northern tribes 700 years before the southern kingdom was taken. See, the southern kingdom was taken in 70 AD, if you recall. The Romans came and destroyed Jerusalem and took the whole nation of Israel, and we were scattered into Africa. But prior to that, 700 years before that, at least if I say 500 to 700, the king of the Assyrians came and took the northern kingdom and scattered them all over the earth. That was 700, 500 years. Imagine that. 5 centuries before the southern kingdom was scattered, the northern kingdom was scattered, and they were scattered all over the earth. Why do you think there's Indians everywhere? You go into Alaska, you find them, to call them what? Eskimos. But they were Indians. You call them Eskimos, but they're really Indians. You go to Mexico, the original people there, Indians. America, Indians. Original people in all these places, Indians. Philippines, Indians. All over the earth. Them Hebrew, northern kingdom, scattered all over the earth. That's right. Even like the islands, before they brought the African slaves, my parents from Jamaica, my mother's side from Jamaica, before they brought the Negroes from the southern kingdom to Jamaica, there were already Indians there. Before they brought, the Spaniards came to Puerto Rico and brought slaves there were already Indians there. They call them Taino. Indians all over the place, scattered throughout the earth. People of color, they weren't Caucasian. People of color. They were a little weaker in stature, like they were a little slighter in build than the Negroes that came. That's why many of these, and this is, you can look this up historically speaking, the Caucasian people killed off all the Indians because they couldn't work as hard with the same strength as the Negro. So they kill them off and replace them with the Negro. Even like Indians, when they came here to America, they said Indians used to thank the Great Spirit. Remember, they would kill an animal for food. They would thank the animal and thank the Great Spirit and animal for giving his life for them. They got that from the Creator. That's right. Even you go all the way to Hawaii, you go to the islands out there in the Pacific Islands, Indians. Same thing. All over the earth, man. And every place they went, they've been killed off. Their population is diminished by the Caucasian man, Indians. Does that make sense? You can see by what happened to them. So this nation, the United States of America, came up in quietly as the Europeans with their warlike ways of guns, because the European man invented the gun, comes with the gun and the gunpowder and the sword, and they just kill and destroy with even disease that's on them. Even when they came and they just came in the presence of the Indians, the disease they came and brought, that smallpox, killed off thousands, millions of Indians with that. Then had the nerve to celebrate and give thanks to their God for killing off the Indians. That's what they did. That's what happens at Thanksgiving, where really the Caucasian men that came here, that they were giving thanks for having killed off the Indians and taken their land and survived. So this second beast is a representation of the United States of America. It claims to be a Christian nation, doesn't it? It claims to be a Christian nation. But it's really a dragon. It has an illusion that it's Christian or that it's representing Messiah. It's an illusion. But it really, when it wants something, it takes it. And it deceives the earth. Deceives the earth. All right? Wait, I'm going to read one more verse. We're going to stop on this next verse. Verse 12. Watch this. And he exercises, this is an important verse. Verse 12 is very important. He, that is the lamb-like beast, which is the United States of America, exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. We got to break this down. I want to take my time on this verse because we're going to end on this verse, but we got to break this verse down. And I want y'all, when you get a chance, look up these words in your concordances, your Greek concordance. When it says he exercises all the power, or that's the authority of the first beast, that is the Roman one, before him. Now, the word before, you look at that and you say, well, it's before him because it existed before him. I mean, right? Like I existed, my father existed before me, right? So I come after my father who was before me. You could say that, but this is not the context in which before is being used in verse 12. It's not the context. What's the context? It's in his presence. It's like under his supervision. The word before in this context means in his presence or under his supervision. So he exercises all the power of the Roman Catholic beast that is under his supervision. So the Roman Catholic Church is supervising or organizing or controlling the United States of America. And the United States of America, the Bible says in there, it says, it causes the earth. That means the United States of America had influence over the entire earth. Now, let me ask you a question. Am I telling the truth if I was to say to you that the United States of America has influence over the entire earth unlike any other nation on the earth? Is that the truth or is it not? That's absolutely true. So there's no other nation. Like I can't say Italy has power, or Greece, right, or Russia has power over the earth like the United States. Nobody has power on the earth like the United States. Now, if something happens in one of those nations, it could affect the earth because we're so like blinded to other nations here in the United States. We think the United States gives the impression that it's the only nation that matters because like something could happen in Greece, like when the economy crashed in Greece and the currency crashed, it affected the whole earth. So things happen to other nations that affect the whole earth, but nobody pays attention unless it's coming from America. Because it's the most influential nation on earth. That's why it says there in verse 12, he causes, that is the United States causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast. That is why ABC, CBS, NBC. These are United States television stations. And whenever Rome has anything going on, the whole earth sees it on one of these stations. It influences the whole earth, and it causes the whole earth to give honor to the beast. Y'all see that? Okay, that's important. So it exercises all the power of the Vatican on behalf of the Vatican, and it's supervised by the Vatican. That is why the Pope can come here, and the United States president will meet that Pope on the tarmac on a red carpet. Nobody else gets that. He will meet it on a red carpet, and that man that's the president will have his wife wear a cover her face in black, because you don't look on the Pope's face if you're a woman. And the Pope can, and this happened, Pope can come to George Bush's White House, have a birthday cake, and have them give him honor. Then he can go give a rally at RFK Stadium, because he's the head of his state and he's the head of his church. He could go to the UN and he could speak before the whole UN, because he's the head of the state, the head of the church, and the head of the UN. Nobody else like that on the planet. This is the devil's man on the planet Earth. Y'all need to understand that. This is the devil's man on planet Earth right here. Nobody on earth has a power like that. And he gets his power, seat, and authority from the dragon. So this second beast is the United States of America. He is exercising all the power on behalf of Rome. Remember, I just want to remind y'all, this message of the book of Revelation is only for the servants. You go ahead and tell some Gentiles this stuff, they won't believe you. There are people that won't believe you. They think you're crazy if you say this. Because this message of revelation is for the servants of the Most High Yah. We understand this. Not everybody on the earth is going to understand this. We are seeing the Bible telling us that the United States of America is a puppet for the Vatican. It exercises its power on behalf of the Vatican, and it uses its influence on the whole, around the whole earth, on behalf of the Vatican. We are seeing this. We are being shown this in the scriptures. But nobody else will see it or understand it or even believe it. That's the truth about it. Okay, that's the truth about it. So I'm going to stop here right now. I'm going to stop here. Let's have a word of prayer. We'll continue on Friday with part 3 of the beast, the dragon, and the false prophet. Because I'm telling you right now, we didn't get into the false prophet today, but the false prophet originates out of the United States of America and leads the whole earth to follow him. We're going to talk about that next week. Let's have a word of prayer.